What's up, Juventini? Welcome back to the AJC, your channel dedicated to Juventus. And man, we wanted a victory show this Sunday, but unfortunately, no such luck for us. We get the dreaded 0-0 draw, okay? And yeah, Roma, Empoli add Napoli to the list. And there are a couple issues Thiago Motta needs to sort out. He needs to deal with. We're going to tackle this game and everything in the aftermath as fans, some fans getting more nervous than others through this, all right? But we're going to give all our thoughts, break it all down. Happy to have Lou with us today and happy to have Trim here, all right? So first off, fellas, how you doing today? You ready to tackle all this? Let's go.
As ready as I can be.
There you go. We are going to say what's up to everybody in the chat here real quick. So we got Yoro coming in here. Ciao tutti. Matteo, morning boys. Yorio wasted no time. Dusan is a big problem for Juve. He needs to get his head in place. And a big problem that if he can't score, we don't have anyone to replace him with. We are stuck with him. Well, we're going to tackle that one. And I go beyond the goals when we talk Vlahović, and we'll, of course, get to that, all right? Ciao, Alex P. Ciao, Cristi Mille. Forza Juve. Ciao, ciao. And we get an early Storm the Barn from Swery, wasting absolutely no time. We might tackle it before the Storm the Barn session, all right? But, yes, in this match, at least we had a beautiful farewell for Szczęsny. Let's maybe just kick things off with there. Well-deserved, all right? His words were fantastic. Says that he's going to be the team's biggest supporter and everything. It was nice seeing him embrace there with the team, walking around the dressing room. A lot of fans got the opportunity outside J Hotel as well to actually greet Tech and send well wishes to his retirement and everything. Tech, where does Tech go down for you guys? Does he go down as best non-Italian keeper for Juve?
I think so. He's pretty phenomenal for us.
Yeah.
Tech is like I think he'll be remembered in the way like a fan favorite kind of way. Maybe one of those people like a Patrice Evra or like a Mandzukic even that people will come to regard pretty highly for like how he felt about Juventus and like how he handled himself as a Juventus player. And I think that's kind of the most important thing. I mean, you hear his words. Even what he did this summer, which is, he said publicly, hey, the club was like, we can't renew you at this price. And he opted to retire because he was like, it was for the beneficial of the club, just Juventino, true and true.
Yeah, it was a great moment. I think it was well-deserved, and he's definitely up there, despite Joe Cappuccino respecting manager. And this is why you put pineapple on pizza, Joe. Okay,
yeah.
It takes like this. Obviously, Joey Cap kidding, but Woj was class. And you guys, and welcome to the AJC Army. Trem there, all right. Reach out to us. Let's plug you into the private chat, and who knows, you might find yourself in 1v1 on EAFC 25 here. We've got a bunch of games busting out there, all right. But we like our Rush clubs, all right. So a lot of fun there. This game, before we get into it, the lineup exactly the same as the PSV lineup, other than the one change that had to come for Gatti, okay? And that was Kalulu shifting into the center back role. And we had Savona make the start out at right back. I was fine with it. I said, like, my back line, I didn't think twice about it. If Gatti wasn't playing, I would add Cabal on the left, Cambiaso on the right. Looking back, hindsight's always 2020. I had no problem with Savona playing. I know there was a little bit of a issue in the first half with him on the ball, but to be honest, I think it probably was the right call. McKennie in the midfield. Some people had an issue there. I felt like against a bus that we expected, low defensive line, overloading flanks, which is exactly what Conte did, that we could maybe get into a game where we get the ball, work it down deep, and have it in the area, and at least send a body in, and McKennie can create some havoc there. I didn't have any issues with the lineup. Did you guys have any issues with the lineup? We'll start with Lou.
No. I didn't really mind the McKennie choice. I understood what they were going to try to do with it based on the PSV game. Thought that he'd kind of work as like a second striker to Vlahović. That was the idea. And yeah, I mean, I also pre-match had the same back line as you did, Berto, but Savona was someone that I was fine with starting. And when you see like how they set up and everything, it makes a lot of sense as to why he started the match.
Yeah, there you go. And Trim, your thoughts on that lineup?
Right off the hop, nothing really jumped out at me in terms of like wanting to make a change, but I know on the pregame yesterday I mentioned that like if there was one change I would have made, it would have been McKennie out and putting in Thuram, just because although Napoli was going to sit back and they ended up playing a very, basic game plan that we kind of mapped out yesterday on the pregame, that it was just sit back, low block, and then just try to hit us on the counter, which they did have some chances on those counterattacks. I felt like Thuram hasn't had a chance to really set the tone and bring what he offers in terms of like a starting position. Like he comes in and he makes a difference when he comes off the bench. So it's nothing to take away from Weston because he actually played very well, obviously, in that start in that game against PSV. So it's kind of like, made sense. Motta wanted to just keep the same roster rolling in the same starting 11. And just, he had to obviously take out Gatti, couldn't play because of the injury. So Kalulu slides into the middle and Savon on the right. I didn't have an issue with that at all. And I know like we'll talk about it, his ball playing in the first half wasn't as strong for Savona. But all in all, didn't really have too much of an issue with it. Just I would have put Thuram to pair with Locust. They can clog it up a bit in the middle. And I feel like Thuram really could have helped out offensively a little bit, but again, it's we're splitting hairs here when we're hindsight's 2020. So
I just want to interject on McKennie. Like people look at that and they're like, oh, like it's Weston McKennie. Like they're looking at the name, but like for the setup as a whole, and obviously we'll get into it as the game went on. They tried to play in a low block with a midfielder that almost played off Dusan Vlahović. Based on characteristics, there really isn't another person that would have done that off the bench. That's not Fagioli's game. That's not Douglas Luiz's game. And that's not Thuram's game. Now, maybe Koop Miners plays that position, but I feel like if you restrict Koop Miners to just play right behind the striker, you may be doing him a disservice. Like he was allowed to free roam a little bit yesterday, which I think helped at certain points of the game. But that's why for me, like McKennie wasn't an issue because the way the low block was, they were just trying to get another body into the box. Whether it gets into a top team or not, I don't, that argument has no relevancy because for tactical reasons, they were trying something different. So,
yeah, it's, like I said, I mean, we were saying going into every game, we don't feel Motta hasn't pulled the right strings, like in the game. Like it feels like, and I still stand firm on this, I don't think there's been a personnel issue outside of maybe yesterday and one position, but not all the players' fault. We're going to take a look at it because it's an ugly scenario right now. It's staring us dead in the face, but one of the issues Motta faces is what's going on up top, and we can't beat around the bush. It's become a problem. It has. Whether some want to agree with that or not, it is a problem. And it's something that they all have to sort out together. But again, we will take a look at this all. So the lineup, like we said, Di Gregorio, Savona, Kalulu, Bremer, Cambiaso, McKennie, Locatelli, Gonzalez, Koop Miners, Yildiz, and Vlahović. We're going to go through the highlights, talking points of this game. And to be honest, it won't take very long, especially in the first half. Juve, outside of the opening 5 minutes where it was a little bit dicey, a little bit cagey, Napoli getting quite a bit more possession than I expected. After that 5-minute mark, we just grew and then took over control of possession, which I expected. But what was happening with possession was honestly very little. We did cross the ball in, so it looked like our game plan was to work it up and then look to send it to 3 bodies in the area, which was all right. Vlahović, McKennie being 2 of them, another one at back post. We didn't have a big central presence, and for me, I kind of highlighted that first half, but the cross quality was pretty weak in general, so you knew you had to come up with a little bit more. You had to probe a little more. Yildiz took a few stabs at it. Nothing was really close to giving Vlahović or McKennie a chance. There was one cross from the right side. Vlahović couldn't beat Di Lorenzo to. And Yeah, that was probably it in that first half. There really wasn't much. There was a flick on from Cope Miners that created a little bit of havoc we couldn't get to. And then Cope Miners threw a cross in that literally I don't think Gonzalez even knew was going to get by the three bodies in front of him, Vlahović being one of them. It hits his shin and bounces back across. That's really it. There was not a whole lot of structure or real dangerous penetration on the flanks from Juventus. In terms of Napoli, 28th minute, one of their best chances was a brutal pass back from Vlahović, completely missing Locatelli, springing McTominay, and he drilled one from distance. It was a dipping, weird, low, hard drive that Di Gregorio had to deal with, and in the end, he does. There's a rebound there. Bremer had position, Lukaku forced to foul him, but in the end, Lukaku just didn't make contact, and Di Gregorio picks it up, but foul there anyways. 45th minute, this was a dangerous free kick, because the slightest of deflections on this free kick would have probably had it in the back of the net, because Di Gregorio followed the kick. Credit to him, no distractions, anything, sticking with it, and he sees it away. That was a dangerous one. We ended halftime there. We get straight to the second half, you guys, because there's not a whole lot to say about the first half, really. But I did ask, were there any changes you would have made? The one we got, I did not expect, because I said, I continue maybe to 55th, 60th minute, but if I made a change, I would have dropped Cope Miners back. I would have taken McKennie off. I would have played Yildiz as the 10 and maybe brought in Imbangula on the left to get some type of central presence and keep Napoli honest and not make it so easy for them to overload the flanks. Because one thing that's constant through these games, the 4-1-4-1, both advanced mids just do this and separate to the flanks, and we have no central presence. Were there any changes you guys were thinking about at half? And I doubt it was Weah for Vlahović, but Lou, no. What were you thinking for changes? Trim, you go after Lou and let me know.
I didn't have any personnel changes. It was more just like philosophical ones, I guess, like tactical ones. I thought, like you were saying about like the center mids going wide, that's when I was looking for more. And I guess maybe because it was more open, like in the PSV game, we saw like, Nico Gonzalez come central. We saw Yildiz come central. Like at times when those guys would come out wide, they were coming central. Cambiaso was more on the ball in the second half. It was like little things like that I was looking for, more switches that was on for most of the first half, and we missed a lot of that. So that's kind of what I was like looking for, but I didn't like have a personnel change because, to be honest, I mean, the change we got, I think we'll talk, was positive, but I didn't think that would be what happened.
Yeah. And Trim, were you thinking about any changes at half?
Well, based on the starting lineup and who ended up playing, yeah, after seeing how the first half unfolded, I wasn't too disappointed because we were still in the game, but I did think he might have, or I thought he was going to make one change, and it was not the change he made. I was thinking maybe, okay, if you're not going to bring in Thuram because, again, you don't have a lead, he's more of a defensive presence, maybe Luiz might have been the call. And actually, that's what I think as the game progressed into the second half, that was the one change that he didn't make that I was a little surprised, just because Luiz, you could see his patience and coolness on the ball, and he's very good in tight spaces and making short 1-2 passes, but obviously there's something going on with him in terms of maybe it's fitness level, maybe it's just still not being comfortable in training with the team yet. And he's just, again, it all kind of ties in. We do have a whole new, essentially almost whole new roster, few players that have been here last year, and a new coach. So it's a new system. So it's going to take some time for everybody to gel. So, but yeah, we'll get into the second half. And
I'm going to be quite honest. I don't know if I'm buying this integration thing still at this point. Yeah. It doesn't make sense. Okay, right. It's not making sense to me. Douglas Luiz, I don't know why he's not getting in a little bit more. I'll be quite honest though, because we've only seen him for a short period of time, and based on what we've seen out of him so far, I'm gonna be 100% honest. His name was not popping up to me to get into that game yesterday. Based on so far what I've seen, it's I feel like I can't figure out the combination I want to see him with in the middle. Because there's games where he's at the back in some of his cameos collecting and starting from deep. And then there's games where he's advanced and he's not really doing a whole hell of a lot when he does get advanced. And for me, if he was more decisive so far or like really clear cut in the advanced positions, his name would have popped up to me. But on the flip side, Fagioli was like, his name come up in the watch along and it's like, okay, maybe. But again, there's not a whole lot of confidence so far in that final third breakdown from those guys. Fagioli spent the majority of his time basing out in a pivot as well. So we just got to see it more before that confidence gets here. But I don't think we need to shy away from getting him in there at all. But the thing is, yesterday, Locatelli's not leaving that game whatsoever based on how he played. He's staying in there 100%. Cope Miners was still involved in almost anything that actually was considered dangerous. So he's not leaving that game at all. It leaves you with one spot. The fact that he went to Thuram is like, okay, I don't know because, and again, that was later on too. We'll get to it, but it's one of those things, right? Maybe you could say Luis should have been the guy.
I have the same opinion of you. I'm a big Douglas Luiz fan in general. And I think eventually they will figure it out. But I think a lot of what you said was like, hey, like I don't really know like if he's supposed to play deeper, if he's supposed to play forward ahead. I think that's mostly why we don't see a ton of him is Motta is trying to figure out what to do with him, how to get the best out of him, right?
Where he's
I don't
best
think it's a racial thing. I don't think it's like a fitness thing anymore. It's more like tactically, like where do we put this guy? And that's, I think, kind of natural. I don't think it's as big of an issue as maybe people like lead on. I don't think it would have changed the game yesterday. Like it wasn't a thought that came into my head. Like I kind of thought Thuram would come on eventually.
Yeah. So, and Charles disagreeing with me, saying Coop is an adept at being in center midfield. That game didn't need any more balance in the midfield. If anything, we need to be quicker. Our passing and efficiency in the box. Look, I'm going to respectfully disagree with you, Charles. You're facing a triple team every time on the flank, and you're allowing them to do so easily because this game is all about space. Occupying the space, taking the space, creating the space. If you leave an area unattended to, for every action, there's an equal reaction. And if you're going to leave that space alone, uncontested, what are those guys going to do? They're going to have the freedom to clamp down on your flanks. We made life more difficult for the guys on the outside. And if Cambiaso is only coming centrally, not providing overlaps, and he can't because Cope Miner's always there, and you still don't have a central presence unless Cambiaso makes a darting run, which only happens once a game because that's very difficult to do and isn't easy when a team floods the middle. I disagree. You have to use all avenues of the field. Our best moment to hurt them came from a sequence where we did have a central presence. We went left flank to center all the way to the right on a corner deep ball. Gonzalez dummied it. It went to Savona, and I think he was a little hesitant on that ball in. But again, that was like the best sequence where we got the best penetration. We got in deep. That was a dangerous spot to cross. But again, trailing runs. There's several issues to break down here. A lot of it has to do with team chemistry, and we'll get into it because second half, 48th minute, Yildiz cuts in, puts a weak shot at Caprile. By the way, Merritt had to leave this game. Caprile had to come in, test the guy, but you can't even get to that point, right? And it's a shame because you want, if a guy comes into a big game like that, you want to bury him. But we couldn't do it. 54th minute, Cambiaso gets turned a little too easy by Politano. He goes the distance. This was their best opportunity by far. Cuts in. But Bremer, to be fair, did a great job. And where he's got his leg placed in the block, it either leaves him to go low underneath it, which is probably a lot easier to stop, or on that trajectory to go over his leg, you see the shot that you get there. It's either him blocking it or it's sailing over, which it did. And Di Gregorio very confident there, taking his palm away, watching it go over the bar. Then you get to a little bit of a sequence later on in this game, okay? We have to bring l'arbitro Nick in here, okay? We got to bring l'arbitro Nick in here. Overall, he says perfect game by Doveri. Excellent game management, keeping the players under control, only needing one yellow card. Motta, imagine that. Motta getting the only yellow of yesterday's game.
Yeah.
Everything perfect except one moment. Pass back. On a cross into the penalty area, obviously Oliveira, defender, ends up putting his foot out to control the ball in the area, and then the Napoli keeper, Caprile, picking it up while Gonzalez attempts to play it. Here we have to decide if the player is deliberately trying to make a pass back to the keeper. Key considerations are that the defender had lots of time to make a coordinated effort at the ball and is under no pressure by his opponent. While him pointing at the ball, calling out to the keeper isn't necessarily a consideration, it is also certainly a clue regarding what his intent was. This should have resulted in an indirect free kick for Juve. Now, it's garbage that it didn't get called, but that's still a very difficult scenario to put in the back of the net. I still would have loved the opportunity to try, but you'd literally have it like at the 6-yard line, everybody behind there, and you get one touch to try and do something. It's not that high percentage, right? But I'd love to have the opportunity to do something there, okay? But it's still garbage. It didn't get called. I slightly disagree with Doveri having a perfect game. I don't think he played a part in it at all, but there was a lack of advantage in a lot of scenarios. I can think of 3 or 4 immediately for Juve where the advantage was not factored in. But in the grand scheme of things, not an issue. Not an issue, okay? Pass back, though. Garbage. 70th minute. This was the great run by Cambiaso. Up the middle, darting move up the middle. And from there, and this is why I say you still want to have a presence there because it makes them scramble. And when they collapse, that's where your wingers start to get in. That's where everybody can kind of create havoc, create problems. This one falls at the foot of Cope Miners. I think this is the best chance of the game, to be honest. And I expect to hit target. I expect to hit target there, you know. But it is what it is. 78th minute. Yildiz does so much right. And then I thought, for me, this was a very, very poor decision on Yildiz's part. We'll get to the player performances, and again, I'm going to explain this, everybody. Central presence, again. Everybody's making the same run. So McKennie's hanging out here. I want to see Cambiaso taking this space right at the top of the circle there. That's his prime shooting. And again, you have one Napoli player outside of screen. One Napoli player outside of screen. And you have several from Juve. If you want to beat the low block, if you want to pin them, if you want to hurt them, you need that presence. Low block, get the ball deep, penetrate, and hit a trailer. But the shot from here was very poor from Yildiz, and I think it was the worst decision out of the bunch. 3 guys there across goal, all ran deep in there, looking to get to it. McKennie is an option. Just a little touch there. He's staring at goal. Cambiaso, I need to see him on his horse take that space there and want to rip one. There's got to be a willingness on these guys to take those trailing runs. And that was another problem I saw throughout this game. Everybody was making the same movements in the area, and nobody was mixing it up. But again, it's not, in the grand scheme of things, the be-all, end-all. There's several things for us to work on. 82nd minute shot from range from Cambiaso, wide of goal. 88th minute, Weah jumps on a loose ball, runs it back into the area. His shot is blocked. That's really it. It's 0-0, you guys. And we get to all of this now, okay? And we're going to tackle it all in full. 0-0. Overview of the game as a whole. Why can't we break teams down? What's the struggle still? What's the next step? Is it the striker role, which some see? we're playing a man down, etc. Like, what's the issue? Why did this one end 0-0? In your thoughts, your overview, Trim.
So when it comes to the number 9 position or the striker position, specifically, it is all encompassing. It's not all on one player. So I want to get that out of the way now and kind of just say that, because we'll dive into Duchamp specifically, I'm sure. But he didn't get the service yesterday. I realize that. But the problem is that when he was getting his chances, it all goes back to the same thing where you could just see it. It's, for me, what I noticed early in the first half, which is why he didn't play in the second half, it's as if every ball that came his way, he guessed or he misinterpreted where it was going. So there would be a ball along the grass right to his feet, and it was almost like he's out of position thinking it's going to come up high. Then there was chances where we'd get a cross into the middle, and he'd be looking for it at his knees or low level. So there were many chances that he had to get the ball, and he just fumbled it. And again, that's, for me, it's all mental, you can tell. So when it comes to him specifically, excuse me, I wouldn't mind seeing him maybe taking a game off, or at least a half off, and just kind of resetting. And the problem is that we're stuck. We don't have anybody to put in that position because Milik's hurt. So if we can figure out a temporary solution just to get him some time to kind of regroup himself, that's all I'm asking for. I'm not saying get rid of the guy. Like I said, got his jersey back there. Number one of them, he's like one of my favorite players, so I'm not, all hope is lost on him. The game overall, there were also many opportunities where I just felt like we were a little slow in our decision making in terms of how we're going to go about beating the low block. And I think it's now in our heads, because you could see it. It's 3 games now where we've played a team that's played this style, and from the defenders back to the mids, trying to advance it up to the wings and the 4 and the number 9 striker, you can just see they're not exactly sure how they want to go about it. So if we can almost sit back and just review some game tape maybe tomorrow or the next couple of days of training and just try to figure out something, because it's just whatever we're doing clearly is not working. Another thing that I noticed personally that just stood out to me is I was wondering and curious why Coop Miners was often found right way out on the left flank, and I understand Yildiz would overlap into the middle, but I think Coop Miners is more effective in the middle. And this is also becoming an issue for us, is that we have Yildiz playing out wide on the left, but it seems like him and Coop both like to occupy the center of the field. And Coop's realizing that, and he's, like I said, moving over to the left-hand side. So a lot of little things in there that I've noticed that was it's off. And again, a lot of it is due to just lack of playing time together and cohesiveness, and just everybody's just trying to feel each other out. I'd rather it happen now at 3-4 games into the season than later on as we get deep into the thick of things. So I'm just hoping that, we can figure this out. But the number 9 position specifically is a problem for you, man.
It's a problem. It is a problem.
Yeah.
And we're going to tackle it. Lou, your kind of overview, your thoughts on this game as a whole before we get into man of the match and all the actual hot topics in the aftermath.
Yeah, I mean, problem yesterday for me is 2 things. It's tactical and technical. Mostly tactical. I think that, in my opinion, this game was better than the Empoli and the Roma game, which is not much because we still got a 0-0 draw. You can't really ever be happy about that. But I would say, from a perspective, we did try. Motta came in with some ideas, right? The back 3, when we were going forward, Cambiaso coming into the middle, I thought was a really good idea. It explained why the lineup was the way it was. The only problem with it is that Nico Gonzalez in the first half especially was kind of left on an island on his own on the right side. Everything shifted to the left for whatever reason. I also, it's going to be unpopular, I didn't really hate the McKennie decision. I understood why he tried to get an extra body into the box for a low block. Like it made sense. But there still is an issue with us taking risks, us trying to get forward a little bit. And I do want to say, while we could talk about the tactics and Motta and Vlahović is a big part of that, technically there were some things that, we didn't do well yesterday. For example, Duchamp's hold-up play, very poor yesterday. I thought in the PSV game, at least, he could walk away without a goal and say, hey, hold-up play was pretty decent. Those are little things that I think as a team we could all do just slightly better. I think, there were times yesterday, Trim, you highlighted it, where Colt Miners comes left and no one fills the space in the central. That to me is less a tactical issue and more a technical issue. I think that Motta gives these guys freedom to kind of free roam, right? So if Colt comes to the left, Yildiz should be coming to the center to get the ball, right? Or Cambiaso's got to fill that space, or Locatelli's got to fill it. Someone has to fill that space, right? You could see for reference, like in the Empoli game, right? When we had the ball, like Kalulu would almost fill that space in the middle so the midfielders could get higher, right? That was the idea. He naturally kind of does that. There are things that just naturally this team doesn't do yet in the final third that I think are a little bit of a disappointment. Decision-making from a technical aspect. There were times in the first half where that switch, you could see Colt Miners or Yildiz screaming for the ball on the left side. No one was really playing that ball. In the second half, it kind of opened up a little bit more. We were switching the field a lot more, removing the ball a lot quicker. These are technical decisions that I think we just don't make very well. And you could see it a little bit, especially in the Roma match, maybe not so much the Empoli match, but they're there that I think would help the tactical sides of things. But yeah, I mean, there's not really much to say in a 0-0 draw. It was slightly better than the last two, but
I'm going to say, like, I agree in the sense that for what it's worth, and we'll talk about the previous games, I actually felt this one was better despite the numbers not backing it. I actually did feel it was better in terms of what we were trying, how we were working around, and against the better out of the three opponents, Roma, Empoli, and Napoli. Napoli's the best out of the bunch there. And again, we controlled a lot of this game. Some of their opportunities actually came from errors from us. I never felt threatened by Napoli in this game. That's a bonus. The thing is, 90% of our games in Serie A are going to be played like this, with teams with low defensive blocks, overloading flanks, and you're going to have to find an answer. We tried a little bit more this game, but it's still ultimately not enough. My fear is that something we've known about Motta coming in is starting to kind of come to fruition or show its face, and he's going to have to sort it out. I still stand firm. A lot of this has to do with Motta, and we'll talk about that as a whole. But this game, there's not a whole lot to be said other than it's a winnable match, completely winnable. You've got to push. You've got to push more for that winner, for that goal. You're facing numerical disadvantages. You have to send bodies. 72nd minute, if you haven't done it by then, what are you keeping four guys back to watch one? When your winger just penetrated, he's down almost on the end line, and you have the complete top of the area wide open. That's not a team that's getting after it for me. Even send one out of the four that are hanging back there for just one guy to mark. Get over there. Push this game across the line. It's a little bit too safe for me. So he tried new ideas, but ultimately, again, the game is not that complicated. Create space, attack it. What did we do to really create the space? And for me, the players don't understand or see where the space is getting created. In the first half, we pretty much played down a man because that's what Dusan gave you. Nothing. Next to nothing. 6 touches. He only got 6 touches, cries a no-need man in Ontario. Yeah, but an attacker is also responsible for that. We've talked about this a bunch. In the games where it doesn't go your way, what are you doing to benefit the group? And that is the biggest question I have. Because if you can say anything outside of nothing for Vlahović yesterday, what did he do to help the group in a game that wasn't going his way first half? The answer is nothing. Nothing. And he actually became a liability when he's throwing blind-ass passes and can't hit Locatelli 10 feet away and springs McTominay. You just, not only have you not helped us, you've become a liability. So the change, some were asking questions, and we'll get to in a second, ballsy or stupid. And I saw both sides of the fence thrown out there by Juventini. I don't know how ballsy it is when there's nothing coming from that in the first half of a big game. And the other thing is this fear that even Milik doesn't come in and change anything. And now you're experimenting with Weah, who's never played striker, probably until his early days. Even Gonzalez, for that matter. That is a coach sending a message in the only way he has left. And that is, we need more. Bottom line.
On this topic with Vlahović and like Milik, Milik is very unpopular with the fan base. Understandably, he's hurt a ton. But Milik, like, when you think about like some of the performances last year, right? Like I think about the goal he scored for Frosinone when he combined with Weston. He came really deep. He got the ball. He swung it out wide. He made a run off that, right? Those are things that, like, when I look at Vlahović, he doesn't do particularly well, at least consistently. His hold-up play, like, he doesn't get the ball at his feet. He's not playing out wide to his wingers or to his fullbacks. He doesn't come deep to get it at all. I mean, and that's a really big issue. And it's not, in some minutes, it's like, even shout out the Dom. But even like last year, like across the globe, right? Like there was an argument about Erling Haaland last year. You know, hey, hold up play, not very good, like costing teams there. You know, all strikers have to figure this out, right? It's ball to feet, it's your movement, it's, you know, coming deep to get it, play it out wide, you know, recycle, have people run off of you. The problem with Vlahović is not only is his play very sloppy, he's just kind of hanging on the last man, right? He's not coming to get the ball because he probably can't come get the ball. And when he does get the ball, he really doesn't know what to do with it. And it slows a lot down. I think the Weah change, if it highlighted anything, was that while Weah's maybe not a striker, he is not slowing the ball down. Like his movement was very good. They were playing one-touch passing. He was getting the ball, trying to recycle it as fast as he could. Was it great? Was it phenomenal? No. But it made a difference because it's just little things that Vlahović was not offering us. And I think that Milik, when he comes back, hopefully next week, would be very useful in those areas because he could come get the ball deep. He could play a ball. He could switch the field with his feet. These are intangibles that Vlahović needs to improve on. And if he doesn't, he's going to continue to suffer because if he can't play with the ball at his feet, we're going to be slow offensively. And if we're slow offensively, we're not going to be able to get him any service.
Yeah.
And it looked different, right? Like you mentioned before we jumped on, Lou, I was going to just touch on how Weah, the one sequence where Weah dropped way low to collect the ball and made some one-touch passes with the mids there. I can't remember who it was exactly, but like just seeing that, I was more frustrated yesterday than I am today, obviously, about the performance. But I jokingly said it seemed like Weah created and did more in 45 minutes or thereabouts, 45 minutes of time at number 9 position than Dusan has all year. And it's just because it looked different. Like, we're never going to get that from Dusan, I'm realizing. And I think he's the type of striker, to me, from what I've noticed, is he will not leave his position up top. And he just needs guys around him, either on the flanks or in the middle of the park, that will literally feed him sitters to be able to be effective. Because we're pointing out that his hold-up play, it's up and down. He does have moments and games where he can manage, but like he's showing that he's a very one-dimensional striker, which is just stay up top, maybe make some darting runs, and like he requires like the perfect pass or really good passes. Because that's another thing I got yesterday. Rebuttal was people were telling me, oh, well, how can he make good with passes at his shins and like up at his knees? I'm like, well, you're a striker. You're supposed to be able to try to
Listen, the biggest right? thing from Weah to Vlahović was the fact he didn't lose the ball. And that goes a long way. This guy had 6 touches in the first half and dispossessed on 3 of them. There was nothing there. Weah had 21 touches in his half. Okay, and he dropped back, and people are like, well, yeah, of course he's dropping back to get the ball. Okay, so Dusan can do that. Yeah. Dusan can get involved. This guy wants to take free kicks from 30 yards out. He can't separate himself from that last line of defense, and if they come with you, it opens space behind, or they don't, maybe you turn and take a shot from where you want to take all your free kicks. Like, there's got to be more. But I'm not here to just dump on him because there's a lot more to this that needs to be corrected. We are going to break it all down, but we got to get to man of the match. The official man of the match was Gleison Bremer. I want to know, everybody in the chat, your man of the match, and I want to go through the panels right now. Lou, who was your man of the match this game?
For me, it was Bremer. It was close between him and Locatelli. The reason I gave it to Bremer was just pocketing Lukaku is not very easy. He's a handle for defenders to deal with. And Lukaku got nowhere near him. And there was a period where Lukaku looked like he was going to get behind him, and Bremer just brushed him off. Just ridiculous performance. And shout out to him for having the captain's armband. That was cool to see. So Bremer for me.
So Bremer, 90 minutes played, obviously 2 clearances, 1 block shot, 4 interceptions, 1 tackle, 98 touches, pass accuracy at 95%, long balls he was 3 for 5, ground duels 1, 4 out of 5, aerials 4 out of 4. He was a beast and rendered Lukaku useless. And to be honest, I thought if you were going to give it to, if you were Napoli, I was actually happy they didn't play Neres to start. I was happy they left Lukaku on for that long because I thought he offered nothing to them. And somebody that was actually more mobile and a bit quicker might have actually created more problems. Lukaku is the prototypical guy that Bremer will shut down. Thank you for that. But Trim, your player, your man of the match.
Oh, it's easy. Bremer. Shout out to Bremer helping me with my Fanta Calcio. Man, that was the best decision I made picking him because 22 points yesterday, just a machine, man. He was everywhere. I admire him so much for what he brings defensively. And, a lot of people like to joke online about, we were forced into selling De Ligt to get him and what a difference. And it really has been a blessing in disguise picking this guy up. So I really hope we can keep him around. And I just wanted to touch on the Neres thing. Shout out to Michael Gagliardi in the chat. We sit beside each other at the fan club and watch the game. We were actually both turned to each other and we're both like, are they really going to still keep Politano in the game and not put Neres in it? Because we were both like, the second this guy comes on, he's going to have the potential to hurt us. So we were both kind of chuckling about that. And yeah, it's
I'm giving it to Locatelli. Locatelli is my man of the match in that one yesterday. 111 touches, 99 for 103 in passing, 9 out of 11 long balls. This was another part of our game that we have to realize needs to happen. In the first half, I was screaming for us to switch field. And it pains me because in the first half, Napoli did a way better job of containing Locatelli. They had him surrounded by 3 players at all times, sometimes 4. And nobody else that was picking up the ball. Kalulu had it a ton. Nobody else that picked up the ball there was eyeing up that switch field. And I'm like, guys, you have to take that. You have to take the space. Again, when the space is created, you attack it. Nobody else with the wherewithal and the presence of mind to actually do that. Second half, boom, boom, boom. Locatelli's pinging this thing all over the place. And then all of a sudden, okay, now we just gain space. Now we go from here. But that's got to be there from the get-go. And it can't be one guy all the time. Yeah. These guys have to, at this level, you got to be able to spray that ball around. Obviously, I'm not expecting Bremer to do that, but he's done so in other games. At least take the attempt. At least keep them honest. Keep the defense honest. It's all about spreading them out. But Locatelli had a great game. I'm going to go with him. Ground duels, 4-11. Aerial duels, 1 for 1. Only lost the ball 5 times out of being on it, 111. Again, overall, I still think in the midfield, we do have to tweak. We do have to tweak it because us just sending guys to the flanks. Cambiaso, he got a couple shouts for man of the match as well. I want to talk about his performance because I saw some fans say it makes no sense how we're using him in there. And I saw other fans obviously throwing him in for man of the match saying it's fantastic how we're utilizing him and having him in there. So what's your personal thought on Cambiaso's game yesterday? We'll start with Trim.
Cambiaso, at times he can be frustrating just to with his decision making. And I know you mentioned about his long runs, and we don't want him taking off, especially when we're it's like a tie game. But I noticed towards the end of the match in the second half, in the last 5-10 minutes or so, there were a couple of chances where he just took off on a run, and it actually created space for us and opened up a lot of passing lanes for him. So I didn't have a problem with his game per se. It's just more of, would like to see that a little more often, even in the first half, because you mentioned it all. If they're giving you numbers up top, like in terms of Napoli was sitting back with the low block, and if they're allowing for us to send more numbers forward, especially from the defensive side, if they're only keeping Lukaku up top there, then you got to have somebody, or at least a couple guys maybe even running in to try to help support the middle of the park, where there was clearly a huge opening and a gap, because he had Coop out wide and Yildiz was sticking out on that left-hand side too, Nico on the right side, Vlahović just sitting up top, or in the second half's case, Weah. So I didn't personally have much of an issue with Cambiaso, but there are times where he's up and down.
My only thing with Cambiaso is sometimes it's a little bit too much. That's my only knock on the guy. I have no problems with him creating. I have no issues with him getting into the midfield. It's gotta produce something. There's a lot of great stuff that he's doing that ends up with nothing at the end of it. It's the efficiency. So I like what he's doing. I like that he can offer that changeup. I think he's a great player. But again, sometimes he needs to understand, because he's still young, everybody, that sometimes less is more. And when he figures out that, that's when I think Cambiaso really goes insane for Juve. Because that's my only criticism of the guy. Sometimes too much, way too much. And the second that he understands that and figures out that difference, that's when Cambiaso will, if you're happy about him now, wait till he figures that out, because that's when he goes next level. That's the only thing I have with Cambiaso. Lou?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you guys. I think Cambiaso, he's our most complete player. He can do almost anything. He's phenomenal. But I think also, you could probably say the same thing about Kenan Yildiz, also a little bit young. For all the great runs they make, for all the people they take on, they just need to clean it up just a little bit.
Yeah.
Could be just, their touches, when they pick and choose those runs, how long they make those runs for, hey, beat a man or two, get rid of the ball, but they'll figure it out.
Exactly. And again, in the open games, I have no problem with our team. These guys but that's not where I'm going to judge these guys, because that should be easy. That should come easy to these guys at this caliber. Breaking these overloads defensively, they got to sort it out. And Yildiz, he's got to have a little bit more patience at times when he's doing it. Sometimes I feel like he's so antsy and just to get going, and I think he's missing key progressions that, again, sometimes less is more. But you don't want to tell a kid, stop shooting. Stop. You know what I mean? You just you got to hope, and you got to keep working.
Dynamic skill. You don't.
You got to keep working with him, that he figures out the situations, right? He got a couple key ones there that I think got away from him, that when he watches the tape, he's probably going to be pretty pissed off about. But in the grand scheme of things, I only had a couple flops on here. And some of them, again, this will paint the picture of, in my mind, the flops and how it's at multiple different levels, and there's not one issue, and it's definitely not just one player, everybody. Okay? In the grand scheme of things, this is still great, because we've got teams that are unwilling to play us straight up. That's great. That's half your battle. You got 65% possession. The next step is just to punish. So figure it out. But my flops, obviously Vlahović is a flop, yesterday's game. I had Gonzalez as a flop, but not mostly because of him, but because of how we allowed him to be isolated and not really fully help him. And this goes back into creating space and utilizing everybody. Savona in the first half didn't offer anything for Gonzalez, and he was very easy to shut down that flank, and it made us one-dimensional. This also plays into a team's hand at shutting you down. So I had him down as a flop, but I had it mostly for system. Motta, I had Motta as one of my flops because, again, you've got to figure this out. The players, whatever the personnel, you've got to figure out a way to get that formula that's going to break this. And I found it funny because one of these comments came out. It was a comparison to the previous year. 23-24, 3 wins, 1 draw, 1 defeat, 10 goals scored, 6 conceded. 24-25, 2 wins, 3 draws, 6 goals, 0 conceded in league. Last year, this time, 19th, 19th created chances this year. At this time last year, we were second, okay? And I can't remember who sent it to me, but somebody sent me like, oh, I just saw somebody say that if it wasn't for the defense, Motta would be in the Fonseca discussion. And
I saw that tweet yesterday, yeah.
So this made me laugh because that's so absolutely ridiculous to say. But I also still see a lot of the fan base surprised that we're not getting this offense. And I have the WhatsApp messages of people saying like, this is not what we expected from Motta. And I said, speak for yourself. Did you watch this show at all last year? I literally said this guy is defense first. So to say he's not credited for the defense being as solid as it is while still maintaining 60+% possession and just really have to figure out how to break the low block and overloads. No, this is exactly what I expected. A defense first manager, and he's got one last hurdle to make. So I'm not buying that at all. And I think it's actually a discredit to him to actually think that way or put him anywhere near Fonseca, for God's sakes. So let's shut that down immediately.
I just want to say this about, because I see this all the time about Motta and the defense. It's basically it's basic understanding of the game. It just looks different. Instead of parking the bus last year, we're defending higher up the pitch. As soon as we lose the ball, we're trying to win it back. If it does get out, the way people close down on transitions, Bremer, Gatti, Kalulu, they're closing down quickly. They're not letting play develop. And when the other team has the ball, 8-9 guys get behind it. And we see Yildiz, we see Gonzalez. They track back. They won a couple balls yesterday. It's not really that difficult to understand that that's the coach. It's not just your players. I mean, the players are great. Gatti's been phenomenal. Bremer's been phenomenal. Kalulu's been phenomenal. But the coach set them up to do that. I think even like playing the back three yesterday, you look at like every time Kvara got the ball, what did Savona do? Put his body into him, right? That's your coach telling you to do that. Yeah, Savona was great at that. It's one of the things he did really well yesterday. That's your coach. It's basic understanding of the game.
This theory too, as we see here, they don't play bad. They're passing good, but is only safe passing. We need more risky through passes. I only saw 2 through balls. Again, they're playing low defensively. If you put in a through ball, you're probably not even going to get there, or it's going to go out of bounds. You need to create as a unit. You need to work the pass, short in type passing, create patterns, triangles. But again, you've limited yourself to a flank on both sides. You still have to have a presence in all areas. You have to spread it out. You have to mix it up. You can't do the same thing over and over and over and expect it to just change all of a sudden in a game. So from the first half to the second half, I saw a little bit more from Motta. So if we're going to compare the Roma draw, the Empoli draw, and this draw, I do think it was better because he tried something a little bit different. And he had the balls to change Vlahović and throw in Weah at an experimental thing. And to be honest, do we think it's a coincidence that the team got more involved and that we created 3 times as much in the second half? We were switching the field. We had a player actually becoming an option at the top and allowing us to progress up the field a little bit easier and get into those deep spots. Is there still work to be done? Absolutely. A lot. Motta's got to sort this out. The players have to do their part, but chemistry is going to play a big part in that. And it is going to get better.
It's exactly that. I think in the second half, what Weah did, and whether that's like Weah his skill set or just the fact that he's this type of player and opened things up. He came in deep. He got the ball. There was movement. The players were moving. Because of that, the passing got a lot quicker. He was trying to play one touch, get the ball off his feet, get it, recycle, move, right? That's how you open up a team like that. Our best sequence in the game yesterday, Weah came deep. He got the ball. He dropped to Locatelli, swung out wide to Yildiz, who found McKennie in the center and ended up overloading the left side. Gonzalez ended up wide open on the right. I think we got a cross out of it that came to nothing. There's one of our better sequences where it was all one-touch passing. Everyone was moving, and that is how you open that up. You drag people out, you open up space, you fill the space, you go to the space, right? It's very simple. Football is not very hard. It's very, very simple, right?
Create space, attack it. Omer says it all the time. Then they'll figure it out. They'll figure it out. The hard part's done, everybody. The difficult part's done. You're going to play us open, we're going to cook, or you're going to shut it down, and we just got to figure it out. But 65% possession, you got to break it down. We still have comments in here. Calafiori was more important than Luis. Guys.
Calafiori is a bench warmer in the Premier League.
What does Calafiori, okay, so are we talking about he's going to be the only guy to switch? Cambiaso stepping up from the back line brings you arguably a little bit more, I'd say, than Cala stepping up.
I'd like to say this about Calafiori. We see all the time we can't play so-and-so. Can't play McKennie because he'd never get in the top team. Can't play this player because he can't get in the top team. Calafiori's at a top team, and he sits on the bench. Not good enough for Juventus. It's the argument I hear all the time.
He's just not 50 million euros for me. He's not 50 million euros. But again,
the argument I hear is these players, they're not good enough because they can't get the top teams, but then we drool over players that can't get the top teams.
Luis will make good. Everybody, the season is young. Now, so what are you saying? The draws against Roma and Empoli are more regrettable than the Napoli one yesterday because they are Serie A contenders, in my opinion. Thoughts? Honestly, yeah, those previous two are more regrettable, but in the end, they're all regrettable for me because they're all matches that we should be pulling. Max
it's the same result, all three, right? So yeah, it's definitely regrettable.
You're dominating possession. I was upset at how many opportunities we gave in one of those games, especially to Empoli. But I'll be quite honest, those are all three games that I'm going to be upset we didn't get after and really push for the win. It's one of these things, defensive stability. And again, everybody going back to our midfield, how we use them, Cope Miners left, right? It makes sense. I said this on the watch along. Defensive stability. If you're going to lose the ball, it's easier to defend if you lose it out on a flank than if you lose it right in the heart of the pitch at the center and they're running back at you. It's way easier to defend, and that's what he's doing. He's controlling the game, dominating possession, but he's very safe in the approach. Might have to risk it a bit more. Guys agree?
I think they're all regrettable because we were better than all three of those teams. All three of those teams didn't really have much to offer against us. And it's regrettable in the sense that, if Juventus comes away with, okay, I can understand one draw, right? Draw to Napoli. But if Juventus wins those other two games, what are we sitting on? 9, 10 points, something like that?
9 points, yeah.
Well, maybe instead we're sitting on, 14 points, and we have a nice little lead on an Inter or a Napoli in Serie A, right? Which I think Juventus, needs to build some momentum. If they're going to win the Scudettos, break off a little early, right? Yeah. That's where it's regrettable to me, and that's where I wonder if at the end of the year, say we lose the league by a couple games, or it gets really tight at the end of the year, we're going to regret not stacking those wins up because it might come back to haunt us. So that's why it's regrettable to me. We were better than these teams. We probably should have won at least two of them. Probably Napoli and Roma. Empoli, we deserved to draw. We were bad in that game, but
yeah,
that's where it's regrettable to me.
Yeah, but they're all winnable. They were all winnable. They were all ours for the taking. Again, there's not one thing or one person that's the reason. Motta has to adapt and understand that, what do I need to do to break this? Because you're going to see it way more. This isn't Bologna anymore, buddy. You're a Juve. This is 90% now that you've instilled the fear and you have the roster, you have the players that you have. This is what you're going to face. From a player's perspective, They need to gain the chemistry. And we still have few guys that are going through growing pains that have to understand the situation. So you have this perfect mix of a lot of different factors that need to be sorted. Matteo could yield. Okay, so this is where it gets interesting because obviously Vlahović there's a problem there, okay? We've talked about this. Like, you've got to figure this out. You got to talk alternatives. Yildiz as a 9. Move someone like Conceição, Nico on the wings. I tried against a weaker team just to test it out. So I'm going to be flat out here. No discredit to him for stepping in and, what he brought yesterday. But Weah up top is not for me. Yeah. I'm going to be quite honest. While many are calling for Nico, Gonzalez up top is not for me. Yildiz, maybe. But ultimately, we're kind of in this moment where, for me personally, Milik needs to come back and actually show Vlahović how to play that role in this system. And it's going to be sink or swim for Vlahović from that point on. Yildiz, I'm open to it. Your guys' thoughts on Yildiz potentially up top? Start with Trim.
As more of a false 9 if he hangs back a bit, because he does tend to stay in the middle, and okay, when he's on the left flank, obviously he knows that that's his position, but he does always want to tend to cut in. So I'd be up for trying it, because then that way you can still keep Coop in the 10, and then like Mateo's mentioning, you put Conceição on one side and Nico on the other side. The problem is that Conceição is not coming back for at least another couple weeks. So, I mean, you could still put Weah on one side and Nico on the other side. So I'm okay with it. I would definitely try it, because, yeah, I'd be curious to see what he would look like there as opposed to what we saw from Weah, which, again, nothing against Weah, but he's better suited, and his qualities are better suited out on the wing where he can burn guys wide. So I would be up for it, especially now, because you have a problem with Dusan, and Milik doesn't appear to be coming back anytime soon, or at least for the next, definitely not next week against Genoa. I mean, I hope there's a surprise there, because it would be nice to see him get in, but I'd be up for it.
Yildiz as a 9, Lou.
I mean, why not at this point? I think that you were right. Like, the solution is Milik, but until he comes back, there has to be another alternative. I kind of disagree with you on Nico. I think Nico could fill that role. The reason I think Nico could fill that role is I think he would come back deep like Weah did. He's not really necessarily restricted to playing off the last man. He is good in the air, but he could pop out to the left. He could pop out to the right. He could even pop into the 10. People could run off of him. I think dynamically he could do some things. I'd like to see it at least once. But Milik ideally is the person that has the skill set to fill what we're kind of lacking there. His hold-up play, his ability to switch the field, his presence in the area, I think he would give us a lot. Just to show, like, hey, here's how you should play in the system. I think that he just has a slightly higher IQ than Vlahović does.
If you played it with your 10 actually playing where a 10 should play and not sucked out to the flank, it could be completely different. Yeah. And I'd be more open to all of these. But in the end, if we're going to play things as it stands, a target guy is crucial. And with the smaller guys, you don't necessarily have that. They do have to drop out. They do have to come back and collect and everything. It's just different. And again, we can't just plug and play and expect the whole thing to change. And that was kind of my problem in the first 2 draws as opposed to this draw, because I did feel overall this was better. He tried some different things. He tried Cambiaso actually bombing, albeit centrally. I think we should use the fullbacks wide and, again, keep the midfielders inside for that central presence. But he tried some different things. He got them switching the field after it was non-existent in the first half. So Motta was poking and prodding a little bit more. But I still think ultimately, like, that target guy is the style we should be going for up top there. Nico, again, I need to see it more before I get to this conference, but I understand everybody wanting to see him there, wanting to feel that. I feel like Yildiz in tight, if we're going to face this type of defense more often than not, he's just better in tight on the ball. I think Gonzalez with a little bit more space out wide, a little bit more time, it's a little more prevalent. But hey, we've got to figure something out because Milik, he's got to get fit. And until he's fit, there is an issue there. So now I don't care what Motta says in his presser. You didn't pull out Vlahović for anything other than the fact that he was providing absolutely nothing. So the way Motta's addressed his mentality, all this in the background, and agreed to it, and like it's going to be tenfold now for Vlahović. And I said the entire time, until he gets that push, until somebody goes in there and is clear cut, like, yes, this is what's going on, he's not going to, I don't see it happening. He needs that push. He needs that threat, and he needs to be right in his, and he still may not get it. Are you guys concerned that he still may not get, let's say Milik comes in, leads by example, shows everything. What, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your confidence that Vlahović matches and can maybe take the spot back? Like, where are you on a scale of 1 to 10, Luke?
5.5.
Not a lot of confidence. Trim.
Funny enough, I was going to say 6 because, like I said, I'm a big fan of his, but my fear is that this position, the team, everything, it's just becoming too much shit. Reading, the negative comments directed at him, and we see it ourselves. So I'm sure he's been seeing it. My fear is that he's losing a grip on his standing within the club, and it's becoming an issue.
Galojero from the Bronx Tale says 0. All right, C. Take it easy. Take it easy, man. 0. Come on. I have little faith in Milik. I'm going to be quite honest. I'm kind of in that boat, you guys.
Yeah.
Alex P says 7.5 out of 10. That if pushed, Vlahović can sort it. A 4 out of 5.
I said yesterday in the chat, I thought that one of the few things Max did well last year was manage Vlahović. I think like every so often he would kind of like drop him, kind of like throw him in. He managed him, I think, from like a mental standpoint. I do think that there is an argument to be made that, hey, we've played 5 games, couple in quick succession, like maybe having another 9 and an alternative to play there might help him out. Even if it's just like, hey, like you're going to the bench to be rested. It's not like a performance thing. It's not a mental thing. Just like, hey, you need to take 60 minutes off. I think would help us.
Yeah. We'll see. Sweaty keeps it coming with the Storm the Barns, guys. Fire away. Are you guys also disappointed with the lack of venomous shots from distance against such low blocks? Who's going to shoot them? And from where?
And
who's getting into the prime? Who's getting into the prime shooting positions? Yeah. We leave it vacant.
That's the problem, in my opinion. So
we leave it vacant. But again, no disrespect to Charles, longtime supporter. Love you, bud. But you told me it doesn't matter that we don't occupy that space. Who's going to take those shots from where? You want Bremer or Gatti to fire from the half circle? We're shooting curlers from cutting in on the wings, and it's only Yildiz. Like, Cope Miners worked off the right side twice. Tried a shot, it got blocked, but it was a quick 1-2, and I think it was with Nico. It was either Nico or Weah that just laid it off. Hell of a shot, rocket of a shot. That's what I want to see, but it got blocked. But again, that's where Cope Miners needs to be for me. In and around that top of the area, let's try and get him ripping some. And then what do? You start to suck that defense higher up. And then a guy like Yildiz, Cambiaso, they can do work and attack it. Everybody has to work for each other. And that's what I'm not really seeing yet. Everybody. Yet. Piers, do you think Giuntoli and co knew that Dusan wasn't ideal for Motta during the summer? Or do you think he considered Dusan as ideal number 9 that will Juve build with moving forward? Honestly, I think there was so much work that they did. Nobody was coming for Duchamp.
I also think on the latter subject, I think Juventus generally believes in Vlahović, or at least did this past summer. I don't think there was a hesitation hey, we need to get rid of this guy, or hey, he's a problem. I think they like the personality type. I think they like the characteristics. They like what he brings to the team itself from a leadership example. He's good in the locker room, he likes being at Juventus. I think they kind of like that part of him, right? So I think that they were willing to take a gamble on him for a year to see if he fits in. I think he was one of those pieces where it's hey, for right now, he's someone we don't want to get rid of. We want to see if we can build a system around him. That is to be said if that can actually happen or not. And that'll change their summer plans if it does.
The guy, he is what it is, man. It's hot and it's cold. He started off the season red hot last year, hit this lull of 3 months, did it at the same time as Fede Chiesa, and it was a nightmare for Juve. And then hit the end of the season, got red hot again. And we're thinking, okay, he's figured it out, this mental block, whatever. He got this woman, he's happy again, he's whatever, he's getting it, we're good. And then again, and this is what I've said the entire time with this guy. It doesn't work at Juve. Del Piero, look no further than his quote, okay? You have to always improve at Juventus. You don't hit square one every single season or in a span of from 2 months apart. If you keep starting at square one, guess what? The target's on you.
Yeah.
He finds himself in it, and there's nobody to blame for it. There's no hiding anymore. He's in the pressure cooker. And we'll see what happens. But as far as Juve, any decisions? I think maybe there's a little bit of a part that to lose point, they were like, hey, well, let's see what we got now. Everything's fresh, whatever. Good attitude at least, which they do keep saying. At least his attitude is upbeat. But at the end of the day, what happens on the pitch is what matters most. Should we fans start to be genuinely concerned if we drop points away to Genoa next Saturday? So funny enough, that came up in my DMs yesterday, and there's some fans out there that are very concerned right now. On a scale of 1 to 10, on how concerned I am, maybe a 1.
That's where I'm at.
Very little concern for me that we don't figure this out. And that the players don't gel and start to get in a rhythm and start to understand one another, which will also help Motta starting to realize that he needs to be a little bit more brave as well. I am not concerned. The Genoa game, every game is different. I want to see how the game plays out before I have actual concerns. And Lou, you're at a 1.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand how you can be concerned about a team that hasn't conceded a goal in the league. They've conceded 1 goal in all competitions, and let's be honest, they were checked out when they conceded that goal. We had probably our best performance in the Champions League in about 5-6 years this week. I mean, maybe since the Ronaldo Atletico game. I don't know how you can be concerned about that. I don't really understand that. And just overall with the fan base, right? We wanted change. We wanted different football. We wanted a different manager. We wanted a younger team. The problem with the fan base is they want all that, but they don't want what comes with that, which is growing pains, which is adjustments, which is new signings, new players, new leaders, thinning out some of the old players that maybe we thought were, the guys that we thought last year, hey, Vlahović put together. Maybe we're realizing he didn't do that. That is part of this, right? If you want that, you have to trust it and you have to let it develop. But if we're going to start going, no, I don't know about this. We're 4th in the league, 1 point off of the title. We should fire our manager. Let's just go be Chelsea.
Well, nobody's saying he needs to be fired, in fairness.
But that'll be the next thing that comes, Berto. The concern goes up, and that'll be 2 more draws. It'll be there.
I mean, the tweet was ridiculous to state that he's on the level of Fonseca or whatever if it wasn't for the defense, when that's literally what he brings. The level of concern, there's always going to be concerns. Like, Juve's always under scrutiny. Like, we have high expectations. That comes from having a very rich history and fans' desire to get back to where we need to be. I don't have a problem with people having high expectations, maybe having low patience levels. I'm just not there. And I'm with you, Lou. I'm a 1 out of 10 as far as concern, because ultimately, if I look at the good and the positive, they grossly outweigh the negatives right now. And that's the easiest way I could put it for fans. You guys don't have to agree out there, but I'm just going to lay it out for me how simple this is. The defense, is it as strong as I expected? No, it's stronger. Like, it is way stronger than what I expected. If you told me we'd be this deep and we'd only concede 1 goal and it came in the Champions League, I'd say I don't see that happening. The amount of influence coming through Motta's game, massive. I didn't expect it to be this quick, but you could see the ideas in action, and we were controlling matches. That's what we always wanted to do. We wanted to be the ones with 65% of the ball and poking and prodding at the other teams, trying to break them. That's what we wanted to do. We're there. You have teams now going away from their game plans at times in order to stop us. So they're changing what they're doing to meet us. For years, we haven't been feared. The decade of dominance, everybody feared us. That's step 1. This is going to be a tough game. We need to change our game to stop them. For the past few years, we couldn't even scare the likes of Frosinone. And that's not even joking, and that's what's scary. Monza, Frosinone, they'd play us straight up.
Yeah.
The hard part is done. Now, it's the next few steps. And the fact that we're only 5 games in, whether we play Genoa next or not, and we've got 3 draws here, 2 wins, that early to be at this point, I wouldn't expect it. I'll be 100% honest. So I'm optimistic. Does anybody think Motta won't figure this out?
No. I think he can figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I have little to no concern as well. Like, I'm not as low as you guys. I would say I'm probably like more of like a 2 or a 3. My concern, and if this is my only concern, I'd say we're in a good spot, is, like you said, it's him not taking chances or risks enough. So, we had a coach that would not take any risk because all he did was park the bus and want to just play that style. So now we have a guy who he's more inclined to take risks, but I think because he's at a big club now, he understands that, he wants to sort out, I would say, like almost every other facet of the game first before he starts to really take some risks. And I think with these 3 draws, it's actually going to help him say, okay, you know what? I got to just go for it. And if we get burned, when we finally do get burned that first time, then it's like, okay, maybe we can tweak it and dial it back a bit, but not going for it nearly as often or at all in the last 3 games. Like, that's going to teach Motta to say, okay, you know what? Maybe I got to figure out to push either a little bit earlier on in the game so that if we do concede, then we have to step it up a bit. But like I said, if that's my only concern, I'm not too worried. Because also, like, tying this into Genoa, we talked about this yesterday at the fan club, and a lot of us were saying, I don't think personally Genoa plays a low block style. Now, could they change their game plan to play us in a low block because they see that it's been effective against us after the last 3 games? Sure, but Gilardino, I don't think, plays a low block. Now, I'm not saying he's going to play super high-flying offensive like a PSV style game, but I think he's more in between, like a balance, like a Motta style. So if they're going to play a similar style to us, which is more of a balanced style between attack and defending, that suits us and our game. So, I mean, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see them playing a low block unless they adapt because of the last
100% do. They play 3-5-2.
Yeah, they're gonna park it with 5 at the back.
Yeah, it's going to be the 5-man wall. It's going to be the side overloads. You can expect the exact same approach as the Roma, Empoli, and even Napoli. Napoli did a little bit of different with 4 at the back, but the winger and a mid shifting over, so you always had this triple team, but it's essentially still a low block. So 100% it's coming from Genoa. And again, it's up to our guys to sort it out. My one concern is this, because this is big when you face this defense, and it's a luxury, and it was something we have been great at for years, but we're not threatening on aerials, like corner kicks, set pieces. Like, how come these guys aren't getting, like, we had Gatti, we had Bremer, they were beasts in the air. Danilo, oddly enough, was one of them who isn't in the lineup now and everything, but like, we've kind of, I don't know if everybody else feels the same way. I feel like we offer no threat on that. We didn't get close to any of them yesterday against Napoli. Yeah. That's got to change, because that's a big, big luxury. Like Bremer, when Gatti gets back in, like these guys got to get to those balls and create a problem on those aerials. That's been a great thing for us over the past few years. It's non-existent right now. That's actually a concern I do have.
I also like to, on the concern part, like we have cards that we haven't played yet. Like Consecao is a card that we haven't seen yet. We don't know where that is going to fit. We don't know how that's going to be. Douglas Luiz technically is a card we haven't seen yet. There still may be developments for both of those players that may help us in certain situations. It may open things up or change things tactically. I saw a comment in there was like, asked this earlier, like would Consecao maybe have helped a little bit yesterday? I think in some cases, yeah, he would. He's quick. He's got a good left foot, whip some balls into the box. Maybe would have been a little bit different, some of that service that we got in. Adj is just another one. Like, we don't really know necessarily. That's another card that could be a wild card that we don't really know what he could give. So
there's a lot of combinations like that run through my head. Like, number one is actually Gonzalez as a 10 close to the striker, and Conceição out on the right with Cope Miners dropping deeper in the midfield. Like, there's a lot of possibilities that open up, and until you try some of these things, you don't know what could be your best. But at some point, you've got a lot of options, and that's a good thing to have, because sooner or later, something's going to hit and something's just going to click, and all these guys are going to be like, okay, now I found my home in this squad and this is my role, whatever. And then it's just going to be this constant progression from there. But right now, everybody's like, I feel like we kind of did this, and now we're just kind of like, okay, trying to figure out that next step. But everybody feels like we're just still down here and haven't really gone anywhere or done anything. But like, in this short period of time, we are actually higher up, and there's one last breakthrough to make.
It also should be noted too, like the teams that generally tend to win the Scudetto always are the best at the back. So like, if you've solved that equation, you've solved that. We're getting more possession on the ball in a lot of these games. We've solved probably the two hardest parts of the pitch, right? The two most important parts, the defense in the middle of the park. We have an idea, right? No matter who's played in the middle of the park, we have looked good in the middle of the park. Now,
yeah, I agree with you 100%. We're going to keep it rolling, because Forza Juve, if you have to replace Dusan with a striker that you think will help us with the build-up and linking up play and still be a good finisher, who would it be? One realistic one and a not realistic.
I got the not realistic right out the gate. Erling Haaland, obviously. I mean, it's clear cut. Guy bags goals, but he gets a hell of a lot of chances. But you drop him in this lineup, he's not getting as many chances, but it's not realistic. So I'll get that one right out of the way. Realistic's the tough one.
Benzema back on the days. Oh, man.
I still think, though, I was going to mention this earlier, we missed out on our boy Morata, man. If we had Morata, me and Skanga, we're the president of the fan club. Like,
I was there with you, Trim. I was there with you.
Lou, you're with us too. If we had Morata, I think we wouldn't even be talking about half this stuff with Dusan. We probably still would have the same service for both players, but he would push Dusan.
Not realistic one. It's funny. I think A realistic one, not realistic one. A lot of fans feel like Xerxes should have been the one we pushed for in the summer.
Yeah.
And keep him with Motta. I'm going to say this. Morata at 12 million for me made sense. At the time you're trying to shop Milik too and everything, I was there. I was like, what are we doing? Like, as a backup, you got Keane leaving. Morata would have been great if he came for the low money on a low pay grade as an option. He would have fit the system pretty damn good.
100%, yeah.
I was never really huge on Xerxes. He's good. He's a good player. I don't know if I would have went all out. Strikers, is that guy from Sporting everybody's high on right now.
Yorkeres or whatever, yeah.
However you say it, yeah. So he's one that's kind of like on the radar now. We've got Jonathan David that we continue to be linked with and everything on a free, potentially moving forward. That's a realistic option that honestly, I feel like right now it's so broken.
Yeah.
These guys could be considered top options, even if we were originally looking at him as a vice. He could probably provide a lot more even from a starting point. But is he the solution? Aldo says no, he's not the solution. He would be more of a solution right now than what we're getting. And I'm confident 100%. In saying that.
Yeah. I also like a shout out for Benjamin Šeško. I like that kid. He's pretty good. Yeah. I think he's in Leipzig. He's a great player too.
Boniface, like that's going to be pricey, right? But yeah, he'd be a good shout too. Non-realistic for me, it's always going to be Haaland. Yeah. Always going to be Haaland for non-realistic. Like, the guy's just a freak. He's a freak.
I got a different one for
Go ahead, Luke.
Julian Alvarez. The knee guy. The knee guy will not see heaven for telling Joe and I that Julian Alvarez was not going to be a great player.
Oh, man. Dude,
not like of the city.
Joe and I were always like, Juve, get this guy. Like, get this guy. It was that first move out of, what was it, River Plate? Was it River Plate? That first move out of there was cheap. That was cheap. I was like, come on, make a push.
I know.
Do what you got to do. That would have been stellar. Would have been stellar. People say Vlahović isn't getting service. But of course you won't get service when your teammates don't trust you with the ball. What do you guys think about this? Honestly,
I don't think that's the problem. But
I don't think it's a teammate issue. I don't think that all the guys are obviously, and we're going to hear that through PR, but they're all going to back each other and whatnot. McKennie came out and said we got to be better for him. Motta said we got to provide him more. They're all going to protect each other. That's what being part of a team is. It has everything to do. This for me, I like a broken record. This is a Motta issue.
Yeah.
It's a Motta issue. It might come down to the point he's not the guy. And maybe the two, Motta's game and blah, maybe they don't mix. Yeah. And that might be a sad reality we one day face. But for me, it is a Motta thing to sort out. You find a way to get this guy working. And it's also a Vlahović issue from the mental aspect. 150%. But they got to figure it out. I don't know what's going to happen.
Like, I don't understand that respectfully. But, like, it's just so clear. Like, if you're talking about, like, service, right? Even if strikers, like, there are tons of strikers that touch the ball 9-10 times a game. It's not because people don't trust them with the ball at their feet. It's just because that's what strikers do. But, you know, good strikers take their chances. You could say, hey, Empoli game. Yeah, keeper made a great save. Probably should have taken that chance. Fine. The chances in that game yesterday, 2 crosses that were nowhere near him. I mean, what do you expect from that?
For me, the biggest, and this is what I get to with Vlahović, because people are talking about goals and they're talking about all this, and it's a lot more fundamental for me, like just the basics. This guy made Rrahmani look like prime Chiellini, not able to win a physical duel against that guy. That is where I draw the line personally. Like, you're getting out-muscled by... So I'm starting to think the guy's got popcorn muscles, for God's sakes. Because Vlahović walks around in the tightest of tees, whatever, and he's all jacked and everything. He can't win a physical battle to save his life. All show, no go. Give me something, man. Give me something.
At all.
Give me something. Win a battle. Go all in on a defender. Make him second guess you the next time you go in. Let him hear the footsteps. You get, like, I'm getting nothing, man. That's where I start to really have a major problem. And I saved it to this point because the questions keep coming and everything. The guy provided nothing yesterday in the first half of that game. Absolutely nothing. You have to at least, again, what do you do? Like, what do you do that helps your team? What was one thing Vlahović did in that first half that helped Juventus?
Nothing. I think he had one pass on the counter technique that he completed. That was about it. Maybe.
He didn't even maybe, find open space. Yeah, didn't find
open
space.
I'm trying to think if I misinterpreted that, if I'm misremembering that, but maybe.
I don't know. And like, so LJJ saying, let's be honest, I thought we will break easily Napoli's defense, knowing who the defenders are. I didn't think it was going to be easy because of Conte and how he approaches things and how meticulous he is.
And Buongiorno.
We called it.
Yeah, take the opening match away from Napoli. They've only conceded 1 goal in Serie A since the opening match. So, like, apparently that's just a walk in the park.
And that's with Rachmani at the heart of the defense, for God's sakes. Conte continues to do it with guys that have no business, being in these considerations. But I tell you what, that game was clamped down exactly how we thought it was going to go.
Yep. We called
exactly how we all called it. And this is why Motta, ultimately, it's his job to figure out as the manager. He's got to figure it out. But we don't need to sound the alarms,
No.
And that's what some are doing. Like, don't sound the alarms, everybody. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. 1 week, Genoa, on the road, maybe a little click on a away visit to Genoa. And I wish Trim's call would come to fruition there and they don't park it, but hey, the signs say otherwise, so get used to it.
Give hell next weekend.
Get used to it. Trez saying it's crazy that our star striker is third choice behind Jovic in the national team, and Jovic is third choice at AC Milan. January can't come soon enough. To be honest, when it comes to national teams and coaches and stuff, like, how crazy do we want to get with it? Rabiot was like a lock on France. Locatelli didn't get taken to the Azzurri. We had Cristante and Folorancho in there. You have Vlahović being played as a creator for Serbia when he does get in there. God, we could tell you he's not a creator. This whole national team, you have Bremer that doesn't get a sniff of time at Brazil, even though all the fans are saying get him in the lineup. And I still take pleasure in all this. He can't play back four. And literally Bremer got asked about it like a month ago, and he says, that's complete bullshit. And I just loved it. And I said, good on you, man. And he's proven it.
He's thriving.
Listen, run the narrative, because we don't want him going anyway.
Yeah, and I'm with Matt. It's not a good metric for players. Yeah. For me personally, there's politics involved too. There's coaches and their preferences. Di Lorenzo will never leave, no matter how bad that Euros was, and that's because of Spalletti things. So do we think Di Lorenzo is still at that level of the Scudetto season? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But right now, Conte, he's doing what they got to do. That's what we expected from Conte. Motta's doing what he's got to do. It's what we expected from him. But you've got a lot of firepower. All this firepower is new. Let them figure it out.
There's a follow-up here to this question saying that it's big national teams. Yildiz 50-50 on when he starts for a small national team in Turkey. So, like, should we just strip the 10 from him based on that? I mean, Arda Güler is probably better than him. So, like...
Not 8 ranking points, though, like EAFC 25 will tell you, because that's garbage, okay? That's garbage. That's strictly Real Madrid bias there with Arda Güler. I'm still fighting the fight for you, Keenan, on the EAFC, okay? I'm still fighting the fight for you.
300%, but just not a great metric. It's not.
Yeah. On a cold night at Genoa, it may all click. It may
we'll just
all
slice
click.
them up like some nice salami next week, hopefully.
Do you guys have any Storm the Barns right now? Something we didn't get to you want to? I do want to say something. Another day. And this one goes to the jabroni yelling trash in Italian during Toto Schillaci's tribute. You, sir, are one of the biggest pieces of shit to the utmost degree if you're going to do that. To the point where the moment of silence got interrupted by the fans booing and jeering this Minchia. Okay? That's lowest of lows, man. That's garbage. That guy, no matter whose fan base he was a part of, should have been smacked around right there in the stands.
Yep.
Bullshit.
Terrible.
So that's my Storm the Barn, not even a question, but just another day to that maggot. Now, you guys, anything?
I did have to say that I did enjoy Conte looking like he was walking to salute the away fans and then just immediately turning to salute the Juventus faithful. And there was a great moment during the match. I don't know if you guys caught it on the live stream or like whatever you were watching on, but when Conte, the first half, he went to complain to the referee and the fans just booed him. Like,
yeah, I actually did.
One of the great things about the sport was the fans could like just give him hell for 90 minutes and then gave him the respect that he probably deserved. It's nice to see that, that Conte he's back on like decent terms with the fans. And it was nice to see him salute them. We know the last time he was in the stadium, he gave Agnelli the finger as he was walking off. It's a little bit different, but it's nice.
Yeah. No, it was an all right moment. I still have some feelings about him from the player days when it comes to Conte. So is what it is. Alex P's got a question. How's Lou sleeping with Rabiot away from you? Probably the best sleeps you've had in a long time.
Every day has been better since, Alex.
I made a comment the other day about the Nico Skira tweet there and saying how long do you think it took Lou to posterize that thing and throw it on his wall in his house?
Listen, it was brilliant. People have been congratulating me like I just became the president of the United States. There are some people, I'm not going to mention names, there are some people that are like, Lou, you were right the whole time after they argued with me for 3 years about it. So, I know who you are. It's in the back of my mental log, but happy days. Rabiot's career was ruined by an 18-year-old. Phenomenal.
Daniele Lucci coming in here again. A lot of Daniel Lucci burner account. On a scale of 1 to 10, how worried are you moving forward with Motta? We already kind of tackled this one, brother, but honestly, I'm a 1. Lou's a 1, and Trim was a little bit higher up.
Like 2, 3, yeah, like just a little bit higher.
Trim just has nervous energy. That's just what it is.
Gotta tattoo that Skira tweet. Oh, man. Maybe if we win the Scudetto or something, we'll make that like a wager. Lou gets that, at least the last line. He'll be listening to the Champions League anthem through his TV.
Did anyone catch me from the main account, the first Juventus game? They were like, it was a post about Rabiot not having a club, posting the fan that looks just like him from the stands.
Oh, that was epic. I was like, is that Rabiot sitting there? Oh.
There are people in the comments that were just like, was that him?
I love how everyone can figure out who's on the main account.
It's very obvious.
Everybody now knows kind of who's who. And yesterday, everybody knew it was Skanga running the main during that game because, hey, he's known as Vlahovic's agent around here for a reason. But that's hilarious. Oh, my God. Skanga, I got to tell him, take it easy, man. You're not this guy's lawyer, his agent. Just relax. Take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. Skanga's probably going to be on the next Match Day Live and post pod. And he's just He's just he's fighting the good fight right now, but I don't think there's much fight to. There's not much fight there for what we saw yesterday.
We probably haven't talked about this with Vlahović, but having Skanga in your corner probably has inhibited his mental health probably the most. That just can't be good for anyone.
I think that's part of the problem. You know,
it is. He watches the show. We know that, and he's
if you
like,
take a look at his wall, now that I think about it, his wall of fame with the jerseys they've all gone to shit.
Yeah, that's what happens.
This guy we might have to call him Tony Mush from everything he turns is turning to shit. Like everything he touches. I'm thinking about the names behind his wall. They all crumbled and faded.
Yeah.
The Baggio, PK, all the knee problems with Baggio. He's got Higuain there, who was dismissed and treated like shit from the club to say goodbye.
Dybala.
He's got Dybala, who went to Inter.
Does he have Motta up there too?
He's got Motta up there too. That was like 3 stints, and then oh man, it's Tony Mush. We've figured it out. Lou, you son of a bitch, you figured it out. We know what the issue is.
His big brain ideas.
We're gonna have to cut his contract. Danga, you're out of here. You're out of here. No, we won't get to that point. Unless he keeps fighting a fight that gets so aggressive with Duchamp. But I appreciate the commitment though. Like, it's almost at the point yesterday where he's saying the sky isn't blue. Like, that's almost the borderline of where it's gone. Like, I can appreciate that. I can respect that.
I respect the commitment to agendas. I mean, I know better than anyone. You stick to the agendas. It's consistent.
We have our guys.
Skanga Vlahović is hitting levels of Severino Chiesa. Oh. For those of you who know. And Sev, yeah, buddy, I'm coming at you. I'm coming at you, Abuser99 in the chat there.
3 times he pops up.
Oh, yeah. You say Chiesa 3 times, Sev's there. All right. But, guys, in all honesty, we're not concerned. I understand some of the fans out there. All we can do is hurry up and wait 1 week. Genoa. Guess what? They'll have the bus in the box there. We got to figure it out. Will Motta dial up something different? Does he follow up with Duchamp? Hey, Milik is probably going to be fit for that game. And let's finish on this question. Milik is fit. Do you start Milik the next game against Genoa? Do you go back to Vlahović?
I think yes. Vlahović, he's got to sit. He's got to just reset. He's got to sit for 60 minutes and just take a breather.
So we got to sit.
I would, if Milik is game ready, I would put him in to start. Like, I can see why you'd want to maybe hold him out and bring him as a sub to kind of work him back in. But at this point, you got nothing to lose by starting him. So I would start Milik for sure. And even if he plays well and he's able to play deep into the game, like, I'd still bring Duchamp in at some point in the second half just to get some touches, get him feeling good about himself, and then go from there.
Did someone say Chiesa? There he is. So we got start Milik 100% by Alex P. We got Aldo saying Milik off the bench. Don't rush him back. If Milik can go, I'd play Milik. I would. I don't think Vlahović being like forced is going to help anything. Even just that reprieve. Lou made a great point about Max's man management last season. Yeah. And he did pull him back a few times. And we were like, hey, you're not going to play him, you're not going to play him. But in the long run, it probably steadied him out. And it's worth a shot. I think continuing to force him there when it's not really clicking with the whole group. Because even if you take away Vlahović from the mix, the other guys need to sort it out amongst themselves. Yildiz, Miners, Gonzalez, Savona, Kalulu, Cambiaso. Like, they're all still trying to figure it out. Even if you just take Vlahović out of the equation. Having him also trying to figure this out while they're all trying to figure it out. Just put somebody that plays it a little bit different in there to kind of try and set the standard if it's better. And then go from there. Would we say that yesterday was better with Weah as opposed to Vlahović in the first half? Would we say it was better or worse? Second half to first half.
It's better.
It was
I'd
better
say it
because
was
he
better.
offered more. Yeah.
We got 6 attempts in the second half. We only had 2 shots in total the whole first half. He touched the ball 6 times. Weah got involved 21 times, and we moved up the pitch quicker. Like, it's not a coincidence, right? He's got to see that there's other ways he's got to become effective, and Milik would present the best working example of someone that suits his characteristics somewhat for him to get this focal point of what he needs to do. I start Milik if he's available. But we'll see what happens. I'm going to bring you the news leading up to that. We're going to tackle it all. We're going to have the match day live. I'm going to do a watch along and everything. But until then, we see what happens in the news today. Very, very quiet around the news, but that's okay. That's a good thing. Let these guys continue to work, continue to grow. Motta, have faith. I have faith in you, but he definitely has issues to sort out. Is one of them out of his hands? Maybe. We'll see. A lot of factors there, but I can't wait to follow it all. And 1 week seems like it's going to be forever after 3 games in 7 days. Tricky period for Juve. We remain undefeated though. And the defense, rock solid. Big building blocks to build off. He's got firepower. He had a 31 million salary at Bologna. Vlahović makes 23. So he's got the firepower across the roster. Let's get Conceição back as quick as possible. I think that guy makes a big difference. Luiz, have no fear. He'll be integrated, everybody. Don't worry. Juve will be okay. Everybody's thinking about us right now. We'll sort it out. And we'll smack them in the face. I have faith. As always, no matter what, fino alla fine, Forza Juventus. Ciao tutti. Drop a like, subscribe, and we'll see you all real soon. Trim, Lou, always an absolute pleasure. Skanga, you've become Tony Mush, and now it's official. Ciao tutti.
Yeah.